Good evening and welcome to the Volunteer Week's webinar. I agree with Caroline. Volunteers Week does feel extra special this year. I'm Lindsay Correa. It's Volunteers Week and that's all about saying thank you. Here at RDA, we'd like to say thank you to our group volunteers who clean up, tack up, look after our ponies and horses, the sidewalkers and leaders, the coaches, the physios, the carriage driving volunteers who are into a whole world of complex tacking up, and those carriage driving volunteers who ride bicycles to keep up with their drivers, vaulting volunteers, and let's not forget the bakers. RDA usually runs on cake, and we're looking forward to getting back to that. Thank you to group committees, those of you who chair groups, who run the finances, fundraisers, and other critical tasks, those of you who set aside time to help the group to run, often behind the scenes. Thank you to regional volunteers. That's you, county coaches, county chairs, regional discipline reps, regional chairs. Thank you to the vets who advise us and check passports at events. Thank you to the RDA UK National Leads. We're all volunteers too. And RDA board trustees, also volunteers who bring their specific skills and experience to drive our organization forward. And I couldn't finish the thank yous this year without thanking Ed and Anna and everyone at RDA HQ who've put in so many extra hours and brain power in helping us to deal with the pandemic. They have become honorary volunteers. Thank you. Like pretty much everyone in RDA, I have a number of volunteer roles. I'm a pink coach at my group, Sandhurst RDA in Surrey. I'm a former regional chair of Southeast Region, and now of an RDA board trustee with responsibility for volunteer development. I work closely with Faye McKenning, who is the RDA UK member of staff, project coordinator for volunteering across the country. Over to Faye.
Hello everyone, my name is Faye McKenning, and as Lindsay said, I am the person responsible for volunteering at RDA National Office. So just like you, I was once a volunteer. I started volunteering at my local group as part of my enrichment for my sixth form. So I started volunteering to strengthen my personal statement and try and get into university. This led me to knowing what I wanted to do as a career, and I chose a different path. Instead of going to university, I took on an apprenticeship at a local school in supporting teaching and learning. So I became a TA. And through that TA, I was drawn to the children with additional needs. And part of that, I had a role created for me. So the role was created to support those who needed a little bit more support, and it was my role to make sure they had the best time possible within school, a bit like what we do at RDA, to make them feel included and show them what they can do rather than focus on what they can't. And I felt like I was able to learn and do this throughout what I had learned through my RDA volunteering. I never stopped volunteering, I just did a little bit extra. So from there, in the skills I learned volunteering with RDA, I then felt comfortable to take on a role in the committee for my Young Farmers Club. So it was the skills of leading and all those extra things we do in the RDA sessions without even realising that gave me the confidence to do this. And I'm proud to say that we smashed it. And then finally, after that, I was still involved in the RDA at this point, and 6 years later, the opportunity came up for this role. And very nervously, I put in an application, and a year down the line, I'm still here. And I absolutely love it and can't wait to share all the exciting ideas we have for volunteering. And over to Lindsay, who's also got a very exciting volunteer story.
So I began my RDA journey years ago, but I'm a professional recruiter. I work with clients like IBM and Eli Lilly. I recruit and set up call centers, take client briefs, and design recruitment solutions. I was also the MD of a network of independent employment agencies. Sound familiar? I then focused on IT recruitment, specifically placement year students and graduate development. I reviewed about 500 CVs a year, conducted countless interviews, and worked with universities to prepare students for the dreaded assessment centers, which I also designed. When my work schedule changed, I had some room in my diary to volunteer. I didn't know what I would do, but I knew that I wanted to give back to my local community, and I'd been riding at a local riding school once a week in the evenings. One of my racing friends suggested RDA, which I didn't even know existed. So I phoned the riding school and offered to volunteer, and they had multiple sessions across the week. So I said, which is the hardest slot to fill? And the resounding answer was Friday evening at 6 o'clock. So that's what I did. They weren't kidding. Friday evenings are hard. Volunteers are more plentiful during the day or at weekends. So I began by learning to sidewalk and got interested in progressing. So trained to be an instructor. I was a little worried as I had no experience whatsoever with children or disabilities, and was surprised at how quickly that didn't matter. The personalities of those first riders that I worked with, they still shine larger than life. Kieran, whose voice boomed out and filled the school. Jack, who referred to his terrible palsy. And Rose, an adult with learning difficulties whose weekly ride was so important socially as well as physically. And the ponies, Hunky, Jake, biggest trot ever, and Thistle. Once I became an instructor, I'd taken on responsibility for finding volunteers, and on Friday evening, they became fewer and fewer. And then someone suggested the Duke of Edinburgh students. What a revelation. They literally saved the day. I worked with my local centre, and the teenagers who joined our Friday night sessions transformed our group. They brought a new energy and curiosity to the sessions, and they were so quick to learn, and the skills they developed and that we then referenced in their blue books made strong examples when they applied to uni and later job applications. As a recruiter, I'm always happy when my professional and volunteer lives collide. For me personally, helping those volunteers to gain experience and take responsibility that I knew I would be interested in as a recruiter was a real pleasure. It was in the early days of Facebook, and we were all Facebook friends. However, now we're still in touch years later, and those volunteers, Rachel is now an account manager for a major tech company, Ashley is a solutions architect for another tech company, and Freddie is now a qualified engineer who still helps out at Quest on a Saturday morning. Then a neighbor invited me to visit an RDA group that was even closer, had one session a week. And you know what happened next? I ended up volunteering there too. It was only one extra session. I was then asked to join the committee of both groups as secretary and group contact. And RDA is just interesting. There's always more to learn. And being the contact gave me access to RDA UK and the incredibly responsive team of staff who were always there to answer my questions. At one point, we needed a loan agreement for a horse. Quick call to head office. And of course, there was a form and all the advice was on tap. Being part of a larger network of groups gave me access to advice, support, and training that kept my groups informed and safe and up to date with regulations. My story is only one, and it's Volunteers Week. So let me hand back to Faye. And one of the perks of our job is that we get to access to lots of stories. So here are a few.
So this is Ginny, and as I'm sure some of you are aware, I sent out an email and in Caroline's newsletter asking for your stories, and this is Ginny. So Ginny started helping with RDA when she was 15 years old and still at school. It became such a big part of her life that she took over helping to organise, teach and providing an extra pony, which was her own, to keep a newly formed group going. Those humble beginnings led her to go to a teacher training college to work with disabled children. Life took a strange and unpredicted turn for her career, and it took a path with horses instead. For many years, she welcomed RDA and para riders who wished to sit on a more advanced dressage horse and get a feel for it. One of her horses was lent to a para rider who had much fun with him competing and learning. As time went by, she became involved with different para riders doing displays at major events and also supporting and helping an RDA rider who found side saddle easier than riding astride. She has been amazed and humbled by the progress of this RDA rider has made and how her social and confidence skills have changed for the better. She was delighted to attend the championships one year to help Sarah Morland in her quest to match riders to horses to put on a side saddle display later in the day. The whole thing was magical. Never have the side saddle display team had such an attentive and interested audience. More recently, she was put forward to help with the showing side of things with RDA. The RDA have been a passion of hers for so many years and has given her the opportunity to become more involved, and she feels humbled to be offered the position. Hopefully now COVID restrictions are being lifted, she'll be able to get out and about and assist in any way possible. She said that RDA is an amazing organisation and see the delight on people's faces with the freedom they get whilst riding a horse is a heaven sent. And being a volunteer is a wonderful thing to be able to do and is giving her so much pleasure, plus gaining from those who you are helping. So that's just one of the stories. And then last year we did some volunteer awards and we had the Brilliant Person Awards, and one of the people nominated was a lady called Anne, and Anne was the creator of these horsey homeworks. Anne from Ettrick Bridge and Dryden Group is an ex-teacher and created over 20 forms of these homeworks to support her participants during COVID and lockdown. And these helped keep their students engaged and also learning, which is brilliant. As well as this, and didn't stop there, she wanted to keep her volunteers engaged and in contact with each other, as I'm sure you can all agree, it can be quite a lonely time. So to make sure everybody still had someone to talk to, she developed wine and chat on Zoom meetings, which is something that sounds like an absolute laugh. And this also helped her to keep in contact and pass on the messages from National Office about when and how they could get started again. They're a small group, but very, very powerful. So in terms of recruiting new volunteers, there are so many things that we can do. And I'm sure looking to come back, and if you are already back, volunteers is something that you may need. So the most important thing is to get the message out there that you need volunteers. If people don't know, people can't apply. The best thing we can do, and I've put a little template here for something you could use, is social media. Social media is now becoming one of the most powerful recruitment tools, as everybody seems to be on it. So please feel free to use the words in that example there if that is something you would like to use. Another place you can look is local volunteer centres, and there is a link there to help you find your local one. These are based locally and are people who have registered for volunteering. They want to volunteer, but they're not quite sure where to go or what to do. So you can register your opportunity with your most local one. Another one is word of mouth, like how Lindsay got involved, how I got involved, with someone saying, you should go here or come see what we're doing, and creating really positive experiences. That is a really good way to get volunteers through the door, as well as sharing information. So you might have too many volunteers, something that I don't think any of us will ever say, but you may do. But your group just down the road might have none. So sharing volunteers means that so many more people can benefit. So it's really good to chat to your local groups, as well as your county chairs. Your county chairs are a great point of contact, because people who might not know where to go or what to do might be pointed in the direction of the county chair. So they'll know opportunities that you have, and they might be able to match you with a potential volunteer. So they're great people to keep in contact with, and they're really good for answering any questions that you might have. The real question that I get asked quite a lot in the volunteer at email is, how old do people need to be volunteers? So the minimum age is 12. So I just thought I'd pop that one in there just in case anyone has any queries. So here we go, and I'll pass back to Lindsay, who will tell you a bit more about her story.
So meanwhile, back at my journey, I had to break it in two because it's kind of a lot. I was an instructor and group contact for Sandhurst Group when I was approached to become regional chair in the Southeast region. I was running my own recruitment consultancy and had just returned from a year living in Ireland. I thought that I might be able to fit that in, especially when I discovered that I was joining a regional team that was really knowledgeable and experienced. And you know what? I was curious again about RDA and what happened beyond the local group. I had never attended regional or national competitions. What an eye-opener that was. Now I was part of the team putting all that together. Running a horse show is easy for so many of you, but that wasn't me. I will never forget the horror of being in charge of rosettes, so many rosettes, and trying to understand what we needed for each competition. I am so grateful that the regional committee knew the ropes. And because my group could not transport ponies to competitions, I was drawn to the arts and crafts competition. This slide is the entry from my class at Sandhurst. I'm still moved that they drew me in the middle. So it's me in the middle teaching my class, and Harvey the pony, the RDA pony, with one of the riders on top. And the children pulled that together for the entry that year. Those children you still have the children with the huge personalities. That still happens. Most recently, this school had a young man called Declan who worked so hard to complete his stage 2 horse care proficiency, and noticed when I missed asking him a question. So what happens beyond the group? By far the best bit is being able to visit groups in your county or region. The magic that happens when your rider makes a breakthrough, speaks for the first time, or holds the reins for 5 minutes, multiply that by 10, double click it, that magic is happening everywhere and in loads and loads of different ways. And as regional volunteer, you move amongst your colleagues, learning and sharing. observing different approaches to our shared purpose of helping people experience the joy of working with horses. And then there was carriage driving. I have no idea how I managed to miss carriage driving until I became regional chair. The groups are astonishing. Think about it. As a riding coach, you're often at a distance from a group of riders in an arena. As a driving coach, you sit right next to the participant. It's one-on-one. That in itself was astonishing. And at Happy Landings Group, they let me have a go. Thank you, Arthur, the first horse that I drove, unforgettable experience and not the last one. So for me, beyond the local group has been a steep learning curve, but always rewarding and totally worth the panic. And what a wealth of talent there is in RDA. When you have the chance to move among the groups, you see firsthand the enormous amount of talent we have in our volunteers. And I think particularly with the pandemic, to see people wrapping their brains around the endless paperwork, the regulations that change no matter where you are in the country, to embrace social media, to embrace using the tools like Zoom, to share, to train. We've all really had to learn, and it's just been so wonderful. This does enable us to work with each other over distance, which has just been fantastic. And I've worked with Faye over the past year to recruit a number of RDA UK roles. Again, as a recruiter, I'm so impressed by how many quality candidates we've had in response to our ads. It's my day job colliding again. Now, Faye, I think, has got a few tips for us, or is going to just talk us through how if you wanted to apply for an RDA UK role, how you do it.
Yes, so the best thing to do is we advertise all of our national and regional roles on the main rda.org.uk website. If you scroll right to the bottom, there's a little bit there about joining the RDA UK team. All adverts are placed there, but if there is something you are looking for specific, drop me an email or pick up the phone and phone me, and I'm sure we'll think of something for you. So again, even if you did have a vacancy you wanted to advertise, if you send me an email and you need help with recruitment, tell me and I can help you with that. I can help you draft adverts, I can post it places, and we can reach lots more people if we work together. I'm here to help. So county roles are something that I personally don't look after. They are recruited within the region. That's not saying I can't help. Again, if you need help advertising, if you need help writing adverts, or even just small little details and you just like me to cast my eye over it, I am more than happy to do that. Please don't hesitate to let me know. And even at groups, I get asked by groups quite a lot, even though they're not strictly RDA UK, they are a key cog in keeping our groups going. I get asked, how do we recruit trustees for groups? The most important thing is to advertise, and get the word out. So yeah, if there's anything I can help with, please do not hesitate to contact me.
Thanks, Faye. And one of the things you might also wonder what Faye and I do when we're working together. And one of the things we're doing at the moment is we're working with group chairs. It seems that if you step up and take over as a group chair, that might be kind of a daunting proposition if you haven't done it before. So we're we're working with some current group chairs to think about and talk through what works, what doesn't work. Is there a job description that would be useful? Who's the person you should go to for advice? When do you need advice? When do you need the training? Because I think putting everybody on a training course immediately you take on a new job, that's just too much information right away. When's the best time? What would you like? What would help to make your job easier? So that's kind of what Faye and I do day to day to address your needs. So I think I'm speaking for so many of us when I say that I started volunteering to give back to my community. But at RDA, I receive so much in return. I'm always learning, I'm often challenged, and I'm continually inspired by the entire RDA community. From all of us at RDA UK, huge thanks to all of our volunteers. Thank you.